Hello, my name is Travis Tega, or at least that's what it says here according to my note card, and I'm going to be talking through my 5 sources for my topic, why the war on drugs should end. And I'm going to be approaching this through the problems, causes, and solutions model. Now, my first source, this is for the problems. This comes from the Scanner. This was published July 21st, 2021. Now, this is a newspaper that I ended up finding through the IVC library database, and I'm going to paraphrase for this quote here. But it's that the war on drugs disproportionately incarcerates people of color, such as blacks and Latinos, and what this criminalization leads to is a criminal record that makes it harder to return to normal life. And essentially, to elaborate on this, it makes it harder to escape the why people even ended up using drugs in the first place. It makes it harder to escape that pit. And my second source, this comes from NBC News, published July 2nd, 2023. And I paraphrased again the information from that source here. But it's essentially that the U.S. has spent over $1 trillion on the war on drugs, despite diminishing returns, as drug usage, overall spending rates, and even incarcerations keep increasing over time, despite the continued money that keeps getting pumped into the war on drugs. Now, what I want the audience to get from this is that essentially it's kind of like a waste of money, the war on drugs, as more money keeps on getting put into it, despite the fact that no good results are not really significant results are getting put into it. But onto the causes. My first source for the causes is going to come from Business Insider. This is published July 31st, 2019, I mean. And for this one, I'm going to use a direct quote. But there is also some important information, as this quote comes from one of Richard Nixon's advisors when they were developing the war on drugs, and explaining how, by getting the public to associate hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt these communities. Now, essentially, by having this as the first cause here I discuss, it's essentially going to explain why I was talking about earlier with why blacks and Latinos seem to be criminalized more. As that racial prejudice, it's not just a coincidence. It very much is intentional. As we flat out have one of the people behind the war on drugs confirming it. And with my second source here, this is going to come from Sunrise Recovery, and this was published September 11th, 2024. And this is going to be a direct quote again, and it's that despite the high prevalence of substance abuse issues among prisoners, fewer than 20% receive treatment while incarcerated. Now, what this is going to discuss, what this is cause to, is the second problem I was discussing, which is how more money keeps everybody put into the war on drugs, despite and there's no good results. And this is explaining why, as they're putting so much money into the prisons and incarcerating people for drugs, but they're not actually dealing with the symptoms, like why they're on drugs or getting the treatment. And what I want the audience to get from this is that the war on drugs, it doesn't really, it treats the symptom, it looks at the symptoms, it treats the symptoms, but it doesn't treat the disease. And that's the opposite of what it should be doing. And that's going to lead to solutions. Well, I want to discuss how it shouldn't be the war on drugs, it should actually be the war on addiction. And with the first source I'm going to use to discuss this is a repeated source from Sunrise Recovery. Sorry. Again, published September 11th, 2024. It's going to be a paraphrasing, but it's how dealing with drug abuse through treatment and rehabilitation is actually more cost effective and just overall effective for reducing drug use than incarceration is. And then I'm going to use another source from NPR. This was published October 9, 2024. I'm going to paraphrase here, but it's how a specific kind of addiction treatment, contingency management, is actually one of the most effective ways of treating drug addiction. And what contingency management essentially is it rewards patients who go to drug tests and are seen to not be using drugs with gift cards, such as say a $30 gift card to a grocery store or something with Walmart. It essentially uses the psychological principles of positive reinforcement to encourage people to not use drugs. And this article discusses how very effective this treatment is, as many of the people who go through it end up actually not going to dealing with the drug usage, and it also ends up being much cheaper than incarceration ends up being. Now, with these 5 sources, I guess 6 because I ended up reusing one of them again. I have to get the point across that why the war on drugs should end and such. Thank you for listening.